Welcome to Throw Off the Lines, the podcast where we navigate life's changes, explore new horizons, and embrace the journey. I'm your host, Stephanie York, an executive coach with a passion for charting new courses on the water and in life. Ready for some total change? Let's dive in. Hi there, and welcome to what I think is such an important topic. It is to me anyways, and it's about spending locally. And we want to talk about 4 ways that you can immediately impact spending locally. But I want to discuss a little bit more about why spending locally is such a critical skill. It's something that we've lost. We want to get into all the feelings around it. And then I want to get into some of the logistics, some of the math, because I think it's important for you to understand how important your decision to spend locally is. So when we are feeling powerless, we must look at what power we do have. And so many in society right now feel powerless, feel like choice, decision, and power is taken from them. And we have the power of what we do every single day, even just a little, where we spend our focus, where we spend our time, and where we spend our money. And I think boycotting is a great tool to use when we disagree with things. It can show what we mean, and it can really empower us to send a signal to a corporation, yet we don't think about how much more power we have over our choices. To not buy at Target, but then go on Amazon is just moving your money to a different place that might not be serving you. We all have a lot of power. Where we spend our money, what we focus on, what we support, that power over those choices. It may feel like we're powerless, but each day we can make choices that are better, more aligned with what we want, and can help even on a small level, and definitely locally. So spend locally. That's the message today. Let's dive in. Local businesses hire local workers. They often source local goods, and they actively contribute to the community's growth. If every household in the U.S. spent just an extra $10 a month on local businesses, it would inject over $9.3 billion into local economies, a staggering boost that already strengthens the foundation of local economies, instead of that $9.3 billion going into the pockets of the higher ups and the corporations, and they spend it where they want. We are instead putting it into the hands of our local people. And just think about it, $10 per month. Think of one choice you can make in your local community to purchase locally, and how powerful that can be if you can also communicate that to others. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And I know I'm going to get into some big economic information, but you guys are smart. I'm not going to undersell your intelligence or your desire to understand this better. I'm going to just tell you what I've been researching. So spending locally has a significant positive impact on the community. We just talked about that. And when you spend it at local businesses, it tends to recirculate within the community. And that's the big thing. Economics that we learn in college, economics we talk about, it's not discussed on the news. We're just given the biggest, so-and-so wants to be the Pope, or with the latest sensational things. We can get really upset about stuff we don't have power over. This stuff, spending locally, we have power. When money is spent at a local business and it recirculates, there are a number of ways that this can impact. It leads to a stronger local economy, potentially benefiting increased job opportunities, higher wages. We empower the local businesses that are our community. So 5 big economic benefits to spending locally. You have the local multiplier effect. This is huge. Money spent locally is more likely to stay within the community and be respent, creating a multiplier effect that boosts economic activity. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more later, trying to talk about big round numbers so you can see why that is absolutely a reason local spending is so critical. Increased tax revenue. This local purchases can contribute to tax revenue. That tax revenue goes locally into all the services our community uses, and that's public services like schools, libraries, infrastructure, our police force, everything that we need and we rely on in our community comes from that local tax revenue. When you spend with a big corporation, They pay some taxes, but most of them shelter their money and they don't pay taxes like we pay taxes in our local community stores and businesses do. So job creation and retention. Local businesses often hire local residents, and that contributes to lower unemployment rates locally, and it provides more opportunities for employment. And I know a lot of these jobs don't pay a living wage. They're struggling too, but they do supply a job in our community, and they are our neighbors and they are a part of our community, and a healthy community helps us in every way. And then when you support local businesses, spending locally helps local businesses thrive, and that creates a vibrant and diverse local marketplace, and it makes your community healthier. We don't have closed storefronts. We don't have the crime rates in a thriving community. We have hope for people. When your community looks healthy and is healthier, you are healthier, your family is healthier. It's so important for everything. And then increased community wealth. The local multiplier effect can lead to a greater concentration of wealth within the community, benefiting residents. If your neighbors have a healthier place to work and there's more jobs in the community, more people are feeling better, it flows into your churches, it flows into your community organizations, it definitely flows into your local schools. Kids are more hopeful. It's just a good thing to have for your community. So 3 amazing social benefits to local spending is stronger community ties, supporting local businesses. It often fosters that community pride and connection. And think about all the businesses that sponsor Little League teams or sponsor other, I don't have a small child, so I don't know what's being sponsored by businesses, but they always were when I was growing up and when my daughter was too. Also, local businesses are often more involved in local events and initiatives, and they contribute to a sense of shared purpose for your community. And then support for local causes. Local businesses are more likely to support local charities and organizations, and they strengthen the social fabric of the community. So just the 3 social benefits for doing this are not just the economic. And then there's 3 important environmental issues. So many people are focused and talk about climate change. We're all so impacted. It gets kicked off the table of focus once we have crazy going on at the federal government level. Our news feeds and everything are full of memes and jokes about dire situations. So environmentally, by purchasing locally, residents can reduce the need for long-distance transportation. We lower carbon emissions and we improve air quality by not putting more goods in trucks to be sent to us tomorrow, immediately, overnight. And there's much shorter supply chains. Local businesses often source products from nearby suppliers, and they reduce the environmental impact of transportation. Think of your carbon footprint purchasing re-thrifted things and purchasing from local people. It all helps reduce your carbon imprint and their carbon footprint. So overall, spending locally, it's a win-win for individuals and businesses and communities, and it strengthens the local economy and supports local jobs, and it contributes to a more vibrant and resilient community. And who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that small town feeling from your community? I think we kind of all do. And it's another subject later on, maybe a different podcast to talk about if you don't feel like you want to support that. That's okay. And it's okay if you want cheaper and you want to keep using the bigger corporations. This might not be a podcast for you. So let's talk about the simple math of the local multiplier effect. Again, you guys are not dumb. I know you can get this. When consumers spend money at local businesses rather than online retailers or out-of-town chains, dollars tend to recirculate through the local economy many more times. And that's known as what we talk about, the local multiplier effect or the compounding effect. And it significantly boosts a community's economic validity. Vitality. Sorry, I am reading a note. Studies find that the multiplier for local spending typically ranges from 3 to 7. And that means that each dollar spent locally generates another $2 to $6 of economic activity in the community. And that might sound confusing. And when I read it first, I had to kind of break it down in my head. So 3 to 7 times multiplied that dollar, $2 to $6 of additional economic activity. So the average multiplier math means money is re-spent 3 to 7 times over again in a community. It means every dollar spent locally can add $2 to $6 as it's respent. So if that money was spent online or out of the community, it never gets into the community. It doesn't have a chance to ping pong back through the community and be respent and benefit your local people. And it goes to other places and it doesn't benefit you. So every dollar you're spending outside of the community does not have a chance to benefit you locally. And I think that's one of the biggest things I want to kind of make it in this spend locally message. The multiplier effect occurs because a local business, they're more likely to spend their revenue within the community. When you buy $100 at a local shop, that business owner may use some of that money to pay wages to local employees and may purchase goods and services from other local businesses. They pay rent to a local property owner. They donate to local charities and organize and so on and so on. Those recipients then respend much of that money locally as well, creating an ongoing cycle of local economic activity. In contrast, when you spend $100 with an online retailer or a chain store headquartered somewhere else, most of that money immediately it just goes out of your local community and it does not come back. And I want you to really think about that. How do you want to feel empowered with your dollars? So several studies have attempted to kind of quantify that local multiplier effect. A frequently cited study by Civic Economics found that spending $100 at a local bookstore generated $45 of local economic activity versus only $13 for a chain bookstore. And this goes for not just books, it goes for everything. If you go and buy auto parts on Amazon, Amazon gets your money and that auto part person gets it. But if you go to the local auto part store, which they're very few now because a lot of them have been closed down, and you go and you buy your parts, and then you go and you work on your car, or you pay a local mechanic to work on your car, and they source their parts from a local auto store, it stays in the community. So just think about that. The New Economics Foundation in the UK found that £10 spent at a local food business was worth £25 to the local economy, compared with just 14 when spent at a supermarket chain. So when you think about that, $10 spent at a grocery store that is maybe not a big food store, Walmart. And I know we all need to save as much money as we can, but there are little farmer market shops and places like that. You spend $10 at that, then the local community multiplies that to $25 worth of local funds, and it's respent to equal $25. But if you spend $10 at a big box store, $14 of that comes back, maybe through wages, maybe through something that's being spent. But your multiplier is missing out on $11 additional dollars for that $10 purchase. So think about that. A study in Salt Lake City found local retailers recirculated 52% of their revenue locally, compared to just 14% for national chains. So these numbers, you don't have to remember them. They're in the podcast. You can re-listen. But these examples point to the local multipliers in the 3 to 4 time range. And some analysis has found even higher multipliers. There was an impact study in Portland, Maine that estimated that shifting 10% of consumer spending from chains to locally owned businesses would generate $127 million in additional local economic activity, implying a multiplier of 7 times. And that is a town in Maine. It's a big town in Maine, but think about it. And studies by the Institute for Local Self-Reliance have found multipliers ranging from 3.5 to more than 5 times across a variety of communities and business types. So think about the power you hold every day with your purchases and your decisions. And that power is stronger than just saying, I'm not going to buy at Target. It's saying, I'm not going to buy at Target, but where am I going to buy? How can I source locally? How can I support and communicate? So to better illustrate the multiplier, let's follow $100 purchased through several rounds of local spending, assuming a conservative 50% of each transaction stays local. And that's an assumption that we can safely make, that's a conservative amount. So $100, first the consumer, you spend, pardon me, $100 at a local store. And then secondly, that store spends $50 locally on wages, on rent, and then the recipients of that $50 spend $25 locally. Whoever gets the wages or the rent spends $25. Maybe they purchase locally. Maybe they're buying goods from the local stores. Fourth recipients of that $25, they spend $12.50. This is all 50% of the transactions. Fifth recipients of that $12.50 spend $6.25 locally. And that simple illustration through the fifth iteration led to a total economic impact of $193.75. Your $100 spent locally went to become $193. And that impact on this very simple conservative 50% was a 2-time multiplier. And in reality, the effect would likely be much, much stronger as we see that the multiplier goes anywhere from 3 to 7%. And that cycle continues beyond 5 rounds. So every time you spend locally, you ratchet up that multiplier effect. You encourage local purchasing. And we're going to talk about some of the 4 things you can do. Now let's compare that $100. We just talked about the multiplier effect on a conservative 50% of each transaction. What about if you spend that $100 online at an online purchase? You spend $100, and then secondly, perhaps 10 stays local as wages for delivery drivers and so forth, delivery drivers, gas stations, whatever. Then that driver spends $5 locally. Maybe they buy lunch. And that's beyond the wages and the gas spent. Then fourth, the recipient of that $5 spends $2.50 locally because we're doing that conservative 50% of a purchase is being spent. So that $100 that you spent online, the total economic impact is only $17.50. And then these 2 examples show how quickly money can leave a local community when spent non-locally. The difference in local economic impact between these 2 $100 purchases using a 50% transaction, conservative transaction, staying local, and using only a 2-time multiplier, not the 3 to 7 that we know happens, means that the equivalent difference is $176.25. So more than 11 times greater local impact for that local purchase. Beyond the immediate economic impacts, strong local multiplier effects can provide numerous long-term benefits to a community. So 3 on up to 7 has a huge impact for you locally. Local businesses tend to create more jobs relative to their revenue compared to large chains. So a thriving local business ecosystem encourages more startups, more innovation, more investment in a downtown area. And then locally owned businesses are more likely to support local causes and organizations. So your charities get more funding, get more volunteer involvement, get more support, and local businesses contribute to a community's distinct identity and sense of place. And diverse local economies are often more resilient to economic shocks than those dependent on a few large employers. So the evidence clearly shows dollars spent locally have a significantly greater impact on a community's economy compared to non-local spending. You get the multiplier. I mean, it couldn't be more clear. And even if you don't quite understand, and it sounded garbled because I sometimes sound that way, I'm sure, think about you only get maybe $12 from a non-local purchase that's being translated into the community, and you're getting $50 to $75 for every $100. So $100 spent non-locally, $12.50. $100 spent locally, anywhere from $50 to $75 rotating through the community because it doesn't stop with one purchase. So beyond that, local businesses tend to create more jobs. and that diverse economy is more resilient, and it's just really important. Evidence clearly shows dollars spent locally have a significantly greater impact. So 4 things you can do right away. Let's jump right into this. Look at your list of things you need. What do you have to buy for your home? Where else locally could you buy them other than on Amazon or a big box store or a big grocery store? Is there a small bodega, a small fruit stand, a small locally run shop where you could go and purchase even $10 to $15 to $20 worth of goods? It doesn't have to be your whole list. I 100% understand budgeting. I 100% understand need. But where else locally could you buy some things? Just even a little can help. If you need to buy clothes, summer's coming up. People need clothes. Let's go through the additional steps that you can do. Look at your list of things you need and find a local source, even for one thing, and you are doing good. You're using your economic power and you're using your choice, and that is something they can't take away from you. So next, go through your things you want to get rid of. If you're cleaning out your closet, I'm all about downsizing and living a less abundant life, simplifying things. So can you share and trade on a local Facebook Buy Nothing group? I belong to a Buy Nothing group here in Los Angeles, and they're by community size. And if I needed I did need a backpack to travel. I had to go and take care of something, and my backpack tore. And I went out, and somebody had a backpack that had been sitting in their closet forever. And it's an amazing backpack, and they just didn't need it anymore, and they wanted to give back to the community. And so I got this backpack, and I had clothes that I didn't need anymore, and they were all in a certain size. And I went on Marketplace, and I was able to give a gift to somebody of the clothes. They were all one size, and then they're going to regift it, and on and on and on. Maybe start a neighborhood clothing swap or a private clothing swap amongst your friends. You could put up on Facebook Marketplace that you're going to have a clothing swap in your driveway, and that here's the sizes you're going to have, and that you'll have some extra tables, and people could bring their clothes and swap them out. And then instead of a garage sale, it's a clothing swap. And, you can also have it just with your friends. My daughter has a bunch of friends, and they're all pretty much the same size, and they've all worn all their fancy clothes. And they get together for a little wine and cheese party, and they bring their bag of clothes, and then everybody kind of goes through and shares and exchanges, and it's another way to repurpose things. Give to your local thrift stores. Purchase from your local thrift stores. Make sure. If you go to one, I know that there's an animal rescue. It's a no-kill shelter, and they have a thrift store. And if I donate to them, they are selling things at their thrift store to raise money to then fund their no-kill shelter. You have those in your community. You just have to go look for them. And it's always good to get rid of some stuff. Clean out your corners. Clean up stuff. That's another podcast. That's hoarding. I have emotional hoarding and physical hoarding. So go visit that podcast. Next, buy resale, thrift or used furniture, appliances, clothing. You'd be shocked at how many resale businesses there are, and those thrive when we're in tough economic times. So I remember I used to buy used refrigerators, repurposed refrigerators, the whole time before I had Amanda. And there's shops that fix these things. So go out into your community and look. Go to a local store and see if they have spices or staples you need. There's a ton of stores that popped up. 99-cent stores are gone, and dollar stores are struggling, and Dollar Tree. But we have these little stores that popped up that say 99 cents and more, or $1 and more. And they're owned by families. And inside them, there's the most amazing spices and little things that you can use for your home. And, look at your little local shops in your community. They will be there with you in an emergency. And they are your neighbors. And supporting them support your community. So make it a little Saturday afternoon. Let's go explore what's in this neighborhood and walk the streets and look at your stores and look at opportunities and go with your friends. There's tons out there. I swear there are opportunities for you to put money back in the community, and it won't cost as much as you think it will. And so go out, drive around, and really see what's in your area. Share info, offer addresses, spread the word about local places. Put a post up on Facebook, put it up on Nextdoor and say, hey, this little shop has these things, you might need them. And we're all in this together. So the more you can spend locally, the better it's going to be for you and your community. So where do I see businesses I can support? In my neighborhood, there are bakeries and bookstores. If I want to buy flour, I have to buy stuff that's not American made because I have a gluten allergy. So I'm trying to buy flour from a local Russian bakery. And there's Italian bakeries and stuff. So I'm pricing that out right now. Clothing stores, reselling, thrift stores, coffee shops, more. I love little boutique coffee shops. And they're struggling right now. Their prices have gone way up. So even if you're not going to buy the big fancy drink, go buy a cup of drip coffee and support them. And if you have business meetings, go to these little places and have your business meetings. Think about what you want your money, your purchase choice, and power to do. Your choices do matter a lot, and you have a voice. Let others know about stores you find and that you support. Without community, we live in dark and often problematic places. With community, we have neighbors, better systems, and a kinder society. Be mindful, be kind, think about your purchases. It is a lot easier than you think it is. Until next time, throw off the lines that are holding you back. Even one small change at a time can move your world into a better, happier, more fulfilling place. I'm proof of that. We all have the power to change a little bit each day. So I hope that this podcast has helped you, and just live a great life, a total life, and take care. Thank you for joining me on Throw Off the Lines. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for future episodes and extras, and leave a review, share it with someone who needs a total inspiration. You can also find us on Facebook or Instagram and our Throw Off the Lines website. If you want to be a guest or have questions for the host, sign up on the website and we'll get back to you. Until next time, throw off those lines and live your best life.